This is Clinton Dishman. Earlier today, I had posted a blog regarding the symptoms and attributes of OCD and what the sufferers encounter. One thing that I think needs to be discussed, and I just didn't want the blog to go on too long, is the aspect of it being a mental disability and the aspect of not using OCD as an excuse. And by that I mean people who suffer with OCD, we cannot use our OCD as an excuse to not perform in the workplace, to not have social interaction. I mean, we have to, no matter what we do in life, there's going to be social interaction. So part of that is learning how to do so. I had expressed social anxiety and avoiding large gatherings of people. Now, that is possible and it does help, but one thing that I think people with OCD and even myself need to learn and respect is that we have to find a means to coexist with people who don't suffer with OCD. We also can't expect special treatment. Myself, I don't want special treatment. Yes, OCD is difficult. Yes, it's going to make things more difficult for me in respects to social interaction and, just normal day-to-day life. But I can still function and perform and be productive. A lot of people in today's society use whatever they have, whether it be OCD, whether it be a stereotype or anything else, as a means to get special treatment or as an excuse for unacceptable behavior. Well, that's not okay. If anything, people who have OCD and who suffer with it, the best course of action, as I stated at the end of my last blog, is to help educate people with it. Now, that's not always going to be productive. There are going to be times when people just don't want to hear or understand what it is that you're going through. But as I'm learning, it is really important to just be honest about it. Again, the qualities and some of the attributes of OCD are really, really beneficial. I used to have a boss, and anytime a complex project came up, involving continuous improvement and analyzing and required organization and getting things arranged in a way and completed, he would task me with, because my brain functions on looking at everything and finding a means to simplify, make more efficient and effective a process. So with that being said, I was a part of a lot of big projects that actually became best practices at my prior employer. Now granted, also, I was fortunate enough that with this employer, my superior realized that I had OCD. He was able to find my strengths and utilize them. That's not always going to be the case in the workforce. But one thing I think that will help in the workforce is being able to be open about your condition and, at least tried to make aware, but you got to be fully honest. And by fully honest, I mean you need to just outline the things that you have problems with. Because if you do this, it's going to help your superior understand the employee with whom they're working with. And that may not seem, like, well, that's, that you're setting yourself up for failure, but it's not. It's scary. It's scary, and it's frustrating sometimes to have to admit that there's something different about you. But the more that people understand what's different, the better off all parties involved are going to be. I want people, or I hope that people can come to a point in their life. I mean, we accept so many things now that, we need to be dedicated in helping people understand these mental disorders, as they call them. Again, I really don't like that term as much, but it is how it's classified. One thing I've noticed a lot, like right now I'm job hunting, and I notice on a lot of applications and resumes, they want you to put down if you have a disability. I have noticed that OCD is on that list. I tend not to disclose that upon, submitting my resume. But one thing that I am going to do going forward is during an interview process, I will explain that I have OCD. My hesitation to put it on a resume is due to the fact that I am concerned that right out the gate, if someone sees that, they're going to decline. And until I feel more comfortable with disclosing that before I have a chance to talk to somebody, I just choose not to do it. And that may or may not be the proper course of action. I have yet to really sit down and think about if that is the proper course of action. Also, I want to talk to people with OCD, especially with sufferers that are going through a rough time. Like right now, I'm without a job. I have a family. I have a mortgage. I have a lot of stressors at the current moment in time, especially being unemployed, which definitely causes spikes in my OCD. You can't, unfortunately, a lot of people who suffer from any kind of mental disability tend to turn to negative vices, such as drugs or alcohol, to help relieve those stresses and relieve those compulsive and obsessive thoughts. I've learned the hard way that all this does is complicate matters. It only makes things worse. I can't say without a shadow of doubt things are always going to get better, but I can say that you can't compound the issue. With us being logical, rational individuals, or at least relying a lot on rationale and logic, we have to look at it and go, okay, what benefit am I going to gain from these vices? And if we really dig down and look at it, we're not going to gain anything. It's going to only compound issues even more so. With that being said, peace of mind is hard to find And just getting our minds able to be at a level of stability is difficult. But if you are going through a time right now, and especially if you're an OCD sufferer, you have to find other means and outlets to deal with the stress and frustration that you're currently encountering. It could be one of my things that I do as I build models. I have to work with my hands. And if I'm really stressed out, I will sit and I will work with my, build something or, try to be productive. That is a very positive outlet, and it really does help. Now, for people who don't have OCD and are dealing with something, especially when they've hit a spike, and a spike is when the anxiety and stress level of an OCD person is above the already normal or standard levels of anxiety and stress that they experience on a day-to-day basis. When an OCD person is in a spike or in a heightened sense of stress and anxiety, the tics behavior can be erratic. For me, I tend to suffer. I don't sleep. I don't eat. And I am very, very distant. Because I'm just, my mind is trying to resolve the chaos. Again, the chaos being right now that I am currently unemployed. The worst thing that you can do is sit there and think that that person is trying to avoid you or doesn't care or doesn't value you, especially referring to friendships and romantic relationships and children. It's not the case. It's so not the case. I'm married with 2 children, and I can tell you that I rely on my family so much. They are my life. That not working causes me a sense of shame, causes me this feeling of failure, and that's a very unwanted feeling. It's a very troubling feeling. And again, as I stated, that we tend to avoid things that bother us. We aren't doing it intentionally. We're not doing it to hurt you. We're not doing it because we view you in a lesser light. We're doing it because we're battling with ourselves at that moment in time and trying to resolve a problem. But I also want people with OCD to understand that we have to try and be cognizant that we not push away or take our frustrations and things out on the people that we love. It's hard enough for them having typically unemotional, overly analytical and logical individuals dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. But when you throw in when we hit our spikes, we cannot always be the most endearing individuals. And it's just, unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle. Unfortunately, it's something that you're never going to perfect. At least I haven't yet. But if you're cognizant of it, and in a prior video I mentioned us being cognizant, when someone with OCD is cognizant of a situation, they will try to work on it, because again, they view it as a character flaw or they view it as a chaotic situation, so they're going to try to find a way to resolve it. And in any situation involving a heightened sense of anxiety and stress in an OCD sufferer, both parties, the sufferer and those dealing with the sufferer, need to be aware that it will pass, but also that there has to be mutual grounds of understanding on both ends. As I progress with these blogs, going to divulge intimate and personal aspects of things, and again, the purpose is to educate people. But I want people to understand that although there are the extremes, although there are the spikes, although there are the mental anguish per se, we have to be able to overcome it, and you can't always do it alone. One downfall of OCD is sometimes we try to fix things by ourselves without seeking help from other people, but we need to realize that our inability to see that gray area, we need sources to help us see that, or at least be aware of it, because if we are able to be aware of it, then maybe we can do something to offset the negative reactions that are going to come when we pull away or we get tunnel vision, and not compound the already spiked stress and anxiety. I just wanted to discuss this because it was something I thought about after I had posted my last blog. We cannot use our OCD as an excuse to hurt the ones we love, to not be productive, or to look for special treatment. What we can do is utilize it to resolve the situation, but there are going to be times when we have to seek the help of other people because of that extreme mentality that we have. So with this, I just wanted to touch on that aspect because I think it's really important that people understand on both ends that during spikes, that sometimes the already chaotic or different behavior that an OCD sufferer displays can be more severe. So with that, we just as a team need to work on ensuring that we're not compounding the already existing stressors and anxiety. Also, I would like to invite people to share these blogs if you feel that they can be beneficial towards yourself or someone else. And also, please, if you feel free to hit me up about these and ask questions. I'm kind of shooting from the hip with these blogs. Nothing's laid out on paper. As my mind discovers new topics, I'm posting. But if there are specifics that you would like to know, whether you be a sufferer or someone dealing with a sufferer, I'd be more than happy to share with you, at least from my perspective, maybe some helpful hints, maybe better ways of understanding things. This is taking a lot of, I guess you'd say, courage in a sense to be as open as I am. But again, I feel that there needs to be a better understanding of this, at least in the aspect of being able to deal with and live with OCD. My Facebook account is Clint Dishman. It's Dishman. Feel free to post your questions there, or you can post your questions on my site here on YouTube, and I will address them as I can and be as honest and open with you as I possibly can. Thank you for your time again, and I will see you on my next post.